There's only 2 full slates in the NFL left for this 2024 season. So let's dominate the sports books in NFL Week 17. Stay tuned for expert NFL injury analysis, players to target in the prop market, and of course, NFL best bets. Welcome, Degens, far and wide. What we love to do here. Let's talk injuries. Biggest one, Brandon Ayuk, ACL, MCL, multi-ligament knee injury. He's out for the season. Josh Oliver, anytime touchdown, plus 850. This was 10-1 earlier.
From a Denver standpoint, you need a defense to get in the end zone.
Welcome to the official Degen Docs Red Zone Bitching Hour.
The only thing I want to bitch about is basically they were so bad that CD was just, he had a decent day. Let's get this off the screen for just a second. I'm going to hijack this. We're going to go to the professor's office hours.
Oh!
For a second here.
This NFL Week 17 betting picks and fantasy tips edition of the Degen Docs on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code SGPNDOC to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, Degens, far and wide, to another edition of the Degen Docs. What is up, folks? I am one of your hosts here, the OG Degen Doc himself, and I am joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, a.k.a. Professor Locks. Merry Christmas, brother, and how are you doing?
Merry Christmas, man. Hey, pretty good betting day yesterday. Not a great day for my fandom, but overall, we touched on some previews of the 2 games yesterday on the Monday show, and one of us did pretty well. I guess
Yeah.
I guess I won't speak on your behalf.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to throw anybody in a locker before we get going on Thursday.
Yes, if you were tailing for the most part, I hope you were tailing Derek's picks yesterday. He absolutely cleaned the slate. Cannot say the same for myself, but still a good Christmas. Look, folks, different time. What is up? I wish I had some whiskey in my hands right now for old-fashioned football. There you go. Cheers to you guys, folks. Look, man, definitely check out old-fashioned football. They've got a ton of nice stuff. And if you like whiskey, check those guys out. You're always going to find something new there. But, hey, hope everyone had a great Christmas. Obviously, different time today, at the in-laws. Everybody's on vacation doing stuff. So we're doing this a little bit early, but it's good. So we don't have to. And clearly, home away from home setup is failing me with the lighting. But it's good. We don't have any time restrictions, not running up on this Thursday night game. So we can really talk about what we want to talk about. And what I want to talk about first is I think we can unequivocally, wholeheartedly say that this experiment of the NFL on Christmas was a failure, right? 2 games that were a blowout. I think it was prime napping time for everybody involved. I think by the third quarter in both these games, I was asleep, and I love football. So, that's saying a lot. Not only was it a bad product, but, you had bad games. You had times where what's the point of watching past the third quarter? What's your take on this whole 3 games in 11 days, 3 NFL games? Again, they compare NFL games to like multiple car crashes. Yep. What are your thoughts there? What do you think as far as this Christmas experiment?
Yeah, I think it was, like you said, it wasn't the best product of football from all 4 teams yesterday. Obviously the Chiefs put up some pretty good numbers. The Ravens absolutely dominated pretty much on every level against the Texans. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things that, especially this late in the season, everybody's beat up so much to begin with. And then you try to basically throw an extra game in. You have 11 days, a week and a half, and you're throwing 3 games in, which, 2 is one thing. 2 in 11 days or so. We see the whole Sunday turnaround Thursday all the time. That's 2 in 11 days, if I'm counting right. But throwing a third one in there definitely hindered the product. I saw something yesterday, or it must have been this morning, that the Ravens in this 3-game stretch have won, I think, 100-33 or something like that. But you also have to remember, they came off their bye into this 3-game stretch. So they were able to get healthier. They were able to recoup going into this, whereas somebody, a team like the Steelers, early on, when the schedule first came out, everybody agreed that basically their 8 games to finish out the season was absolutely brutal. You had 6 division games plus the Eagles plus the Chiefs. And I think we've seen that over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. No, it's you're right with the Steelers schedule. I mean, the Steelers schedule was brutal at this point, but I just don't think it's good for the players. They talk about player safety, which I think, they just use it as a convenient excuse, right? When it matters and it makes sense for their narrative, their objective, they'll throw out the player safety. But then, times like this, you definitely just have to wonder what's going on there. What I do want to talk about for a second too, as well, we both are Pitt guys, and I think, look, we got a bowl game coming up here in just about an hour, and this is a prime opportunity to fade the Pitt Panthers, I believe. We have, look, I know it's bowl season, it's messed up, but hey, maybe you're off work, you're nursing a hangover, and you don't want to wait until Thursday night football games. You want to check out a bowl game. I encourage you to take Toledo plus 6.5. And on the money line today. You have your Pittsburgh Panthers. They started the season 7-0. They're on a 5 losing streak, and they're on their 3rd string quarterback. They have a walk-on quarterback, David Lynch. So you have Eli Holmes beat up at the end of the year. He's going to be the starter moving forward. He's a decent looking guy, redshirt freshman. Nate Yarnell, the backup who has experience, he's in the transfer portal. And you have a Toledo team that's mostly healthy, all playing, right? You've got a ton of Pitt guys in the portal, things like that. I just don't know from a motivation standpoint and just personnel on the field. It's a decent top 25 Toledo defense. It is a good opportunity to fade Pitt one more time. If you can't enjoy your team winning, then you might as well make money off them. I don't know.
No doubt about it. Yeah, no, I think I tend to agree with you. It's a lot of times, especially when it comes to bowl season, this is where teams from the MAC, from those smaller conferences, a lot of times they will get up against those Power 4, Power 5 conferences and at least keep things close, if not knock them off in a bowl game, because the motivation just isn't there for a lot of those teams, especially when now that we have the transfer portal, who knows what team you're going to end up putting on the field to begin with, like you said. So, I would tend to agree with you to fade the Panthers.
No, I mean, look, bowl season has changed completely with the transfer portal. It becomes a crapshoot. I don't bet these games until like mostly an hour or two ahead until I find out like who's exactly playing. Because you'll even have guys, like Ricky White for UNLV who warmed up but then didn't play. Right? It's like, what do we like? So it's definitely a crapshoot. But I think this is kind of one of those where, hey, Vegas was hanging the number at 7.5 all week, and they're not changing it a ton. And I think they just don't want to drastically change it because they're like, well, I don't know what the QB3 looks like. I don't know if anyone can really give you a scouting report on David Lynch. He's a walk-on quarterback for the Pitt Panthers. So that's going to be a fun one. Looks like the old-fashioned football definitely agrees there. Go Toledo. So, let's go Rockets in this MAC matchup, and then hopefully Pitt comes back next year and finishes strong. All right, folks, let's get into talking about some of the big boy football, and that's NFL Week 17. Look, we got 2 more weeks left of full slates, and then we're on to the playoffs. So let's enjoy it. We have all these opportunities to make some money. And before we do, I want to tell you guys, of course, about the SGPN app. They've got all our picks, all of our podcasts just in one convenient place there. Absolutely free, like everything we do here at SGPN. Just type in SGPN in the App Store. Again, completely free, and it's got everything in a nice little package for you. So you don't got to be searching all these different sites.
Including old-fashioned football.
Including old-fashioned football. Yes, exactly. All right. So let's get into Banged up bets. Again, this is a segment we premiered a couple weeks ago with some success. Now, we're going into week 17, and this is where we take the injury report and turn it into actionable information, right? Everybody can read the injury report. You can just, follow Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, whatever, and just try to make sense of what they're saying. A lot of medical jargon, not every questionable tag, not every limited practice is made equal. And that's where we feel like we have an advantage and we can step in. So our first banged up bets injury target, T. Higgins, under 70.5 receiving yards. It's pretty simple. One, he's had 2 straight limited practices with a knee and ankle injury. I fully expect him to play, but he is going to be a little banged up. He got a little bit banged up last week. And more importantly, Riley Moss is back. That Denver secondary is back to being complete. Denver, for much of the season, was talked about as potentially the top defense in the league, especially against the pass. You have Pat Surtain on one time, and then you have, the second-year guy, Riley Moss, out of Iowa. And when Moss went out, we saw Levi Wallace get absolutely torched by Jameis for about 500 yards. He just got waived. And they were looking for kind of how do we fill that void? Well, Riley Moss is back and healthy, fully practicing off that minor knee injury there. So I think that, Pat Surtain doesn't really follow guys, but he really kind of shuts down half the field. And if you're the Bengals, who are you going to move around more to try to get away from Surtain? It's going to be Jamar Chase. It's going to be the kind of explosive guy. So that's what I'm thinking here. T. Higgins has not hit this number in 3 out of his last 4 games. So you have the situation where he's a little bit banged up. Again, Riley Moss is back. And I think if the Bengals are going to move around anybody, it's going to be Jamar Chase. So that is the first angle there. Yeah. With next one, Bryce Young, a guy who has just looked completely different, right? I think it was fun to clown on Bryce Young early on in the season, and the Panthers definitely last season, but he just looks more confident. And he especially looks confident against bad defenses. And that's what he's playing this week. In the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, safety Antoine Winfield still on the IR. They also just put on defensive back Christian Izien. He just got put on the IR, a guy who's had to step up at that safety role. So they're beat up. They're already bad. Last time these two teams played, Bryce Young went for over 300 yards combined. Again, this Tampa Bay secondary is already bad, and he's been using his legs a lot more. He's been willing to kind of do whatever it takes to win. I think he understands at this point, this is your audition to make sure we don't need to draft a quarterback in the future. You've got the new head coach in Dave Canales, who seems to have unlocked Bryce Young a little bit. We're seeing the Bryce Young of the Alabama days some. So I think Bryce Young has an opportunity here. It's a low number because he's kind of all over the place this season, but I think for him to easily clear 240.5, both passing and rushing. And then finally, Jonathan Taylor, over 100.5 yards, rushing yards. I understand this is a crazy high number, but there's 2 things here. The Colts are still mathematically alive in the playoffs, right? If right now the Broncos lose out, then the Colts would be the team in prime position to go ahead and slot into that playoff position, not the Bengals. The Colts would be. So they have everything to play for. And at this point in time, and look, the last 3 games they've understood the best version of the Colts is led by their rushing attack. They've had last 3 games, Jonathan Taylor's had over 20 rush attempts and 95 plus yards. He went for over 200 yards last week. And the biggest thing, the Giants, they're really bad. They're just terrible. They're painful to watch. Our best safety in Tyler Nubin, our best linebacker in Bobby Okereke, and our best defensive tackle in Sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence, all on the IR. This is essentially, we talked about the Pitt quarterback being a walk-on. Everyone on this Giants team right now seems like a walk-on outside of 2. So you have a team that they understand, look, AR-15 popped up on the injury report. I don't think he's really injured. I think he's more hurt, but still the best version of the Indianapolis Colts are to hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor 20, 25 times. And with that many opportunities, I think, there's very little chance that Taylor does not clear 100 yards. So those are my 3. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I really like your first and the third one, especially like you said, with Riley Moss coming back. Pat Surtain definitely can shut somebody down. And like you said, most likely, if at least if I were the Bengals, I would just line up T. Higgins and try to get Jamar Chase in open space. And then Jonathan Taylor is just a stud. The Giants have basically laid down, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what the message is behind the plane this week.
Yeah. You asshole. I didn't even process that. Real quick before I get to yours here, shout out to Joseph, who's been rocking with us in the chat all season, man. Hey man, we appreciate you for getting the chat popping, getting it lively here all the time. And again, it's Christmas, but that doesn't mean that the grind stops.
No doubt.
And real quick, over from Old Fashioned here, Tyrone Tracy, the answer, or will? Yes. I think he is the one. Other than Neighbors, I think him and Neighbors have been the bright spots where I can confidently say he is their answer at running back. I mean, he's shown that he can carry the load. And a couple of those games without Singletary, I think particularly that Seattle Seahawks game where he went 20 plus, 150 plus yards, he really carried our offense that game. I think that, he's still only 2 years removed from converting from wide receiver to running back. I think he's going to continue to get better. So for me, we haven't answered a lot of questions on this New York Giants football team, but Tyrone Tracy, Malik Neighbors, Dexter Lawrence, Bobby Okereke, Tyler Nubin. Those are the 5 guys I will invite back, and Andrew Thomas.
I was just going to say, I was going to throw on an Andrew Thomas. Once they sort of solidify that offensive line again, early on it looked better, and then Andrew Thomas went down, and it hasn't been anywhere close since.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, what say you? What are your 3 targets that you're looking for NFL Week 17?
Yeah, so doing this earlier on in a Thursday made the props a little bit harder to find. So I found a few Underdog fantasy projections here, but give me George Kittle over 67.5. Again, these are fantasy projections. We kind of assume that that their numbers will be fairly close to that, but Kittle has been kind of the steady Eddie for Brock Purdy to find, and going up against that Detroit defense, young secondary defense is still beat up. If there's anybody for that 49ers at this point to really trust, it is George Kittle. So I'm still going to take his over in this one. Drake London has popped up in the past couple of days with this hamstring thing. Doesn't sound terribly concerning, but if we've listened to us before, hamstring injuries are one of, if not probably the most likely to re-injure, especially in the middle of the season. So if something has popped up over the last couple of days in practice, what's to say that something doesn't pop up during the game this weekend? So I went with Drake London's under receiving yards. And then Breece Hall. The Bills linebackers have been sort of beat up on and off all season. Spector just got put on the IR. And since Matt Milano has come back, he hasn't looked the same as he did before. So I'm going over 48.5 rushing yards. Again, these were fantasy projections that I had found. But once the number comes out, I would definitely look at Breece Hall in this one. And plus, he just kind of dominates the Bills over the last few games that they've played. So he's been putting up some numbers against the Bills. For whatever reason, the Jets do still want to get up for some of these games, at least for the first half. So the Breece Hall over is something that I would look to jump on.
Yeah, no, I think that I really like also like a Brock Purdy when his passing yards come out. I will be jumping on his over in that game as well, like you talked about. I mean, Caleb Williams just threw for 300 yards against that Detroit defense. So I think that I think it's going to be a shootout between Detroit and San Francisco on Monday night. So I really like Kittle there. He's been consistent. There's been a lot of questions on the wide receivers portion. So I think Kittle's kind of been the mainstay. Drake London, I love. We'll talk about the Washington-Atlanta matchup later because we both kind of have strong opinions on it. Marshawn Lattimore, it sucks. He's potentially going to be out, but still, I was kind of shocked to see.
He's only played 1 or 2 games with Washington anyway, so it's not like they don't know how to play without him.
Exactly. And, I was kind of surprised, but they're one of the best pass defenses in the league from a yardage standpoint.
Yeah.
They're giving up less than 200 yards a game. And that was before, Marshawn Lattimore got there. So they're top 4 in the NFL in pass defense. And like you said, Lattimore's only played 1 game. So, no, I like that. And then Breece Hall, the Bills offense, mostly figured it out. Their defense still has a lot of questions to kind of get under control there. Ramondre Stevenson had himself a game last week. So it's going to be pretty interesting. We got Joseph in the chat asking about what we feel about Calvin Ridley in a revenge spot against the Jaguars. I like the angle. I mean, look, the Jaguars pass defense is the worst in the entire league. I think they're giving up 260 yards or 260 plus yards a game. I would say I like it. The only reason I don't love it is because Mason Rudolph is still at quarterback. That's like the only hesitation I have with someone who, like, it makes so much sense, but whether it's Will Levis or Mason Rudolph, like, he hasn't really found a guy. He's been throwing a Tajay Spears and Chig Okonkwo a lot. I look, Ridley had 78 and a touchdown last week, but I want to say it should be an easy smash spot. But when you have the quarterback play that's that shaky and bad, that's kind of where my reservation comes into. What say you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, going back to when Mason Rudolph was in Pittsburgh, it was a lot of underneath stuff. It was a lot of, within 5, 6, 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. So yes, could Calvin Ridley break something off? Yeah, but like you said, I think it's probably more likely that he finds some running backs out of the backfield, Okonkwo. But yeah, I like the angle. I just don't know from a quarterback standpoint if he'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, let's move it right along here. We're going to get into our fastest 3 minutes, which is essentially really quick NFL injury updates. Look, we got, like I said, we got a little more time, so we don't have to speed rush through them. So if you do have questions, just feel free to drop them in the chat on anyone in particular. But some of this stuff is going to be stuff that's just dropping now. Obviously, recording this Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. A lot of teams didn't practice yesterday. It was more of a projection and estimation. And then today, we're starting to have some stuff flow in. So I'll start with this stuff from today really quick to just kind of give an update. Looks like running back for the Arizona Cardinals, James Conner, is trending well. Still kind of very much questionable, limited in practice there. Quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be the starter. He's expected to start this Sunday against Miami, although he's limited with a calf injury. Quarterback Teddy Bridgewater is apparently reportedly signing with the Detroit Lions there. And Jalen Hurts in the concussion protocol still. So those were just some quick stuff that popped up.
With that, they did just sign Ian Book to the practice squad.
Yeah. Yep, because you got Kenny Pickett dealing with a rib injury as well. That's kind of we'll talk about it because I know you're gonna bring it up here later about that kind of injury situation, but definitely kind of testy there. They had him as a did not practice, but again, the entire Eagles team didn't practice for Christmas. They gave him the day off, so and I wouldn't expect him to practice on a Wednesday with a concussion anyway. It's today's practice. They practice at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's gonna be where we really kind of get a really good read on where this is going. All right. Before we get right into it, looks like we got a question here from IP14. We've got London or Neighbors in full PPR. This should be pretty easy considering we just said it, but what would you say?
Yeah, I think Neighbors has a higher ceiling to begin with, even with Drew Lock as his quarterback. I just think London with that hamstring kind of tweak. I don't know if he gets the full go.
The only thing I will say, I agree if they're both playing. Neighbors is not practicing today with a toe injury. He was projected to not practice yesterday. So obviously, let's see. He's kind of been a guy who's surprisingly played through a lot this season. A lot of kind of minor things there. Now, I know he got stepped on in the game, but I don't know if this is a separate injury. As far as if it's a turf toe thing, I don't love it. But if it's really just him dealing with him getting stepped on, because he did finish the game last week, then, that changes the situation. So I would say, assuming both guys play, I also like Neighbors just a little bit more. I think game script wise, they're going to be getting blown out. So they're just going to give him some easy stuff underneath and target him. But yeah, London is not a guy that I like either this week due to the hamstring and due to the fact that this Washington secondary has actually been pretty damn good. You got a rookie quarterback there that's been throwing a lot to Darnell Mooney. Actually, is a guy that I was waiting for his number to drop. So, talking about needs some upside because Nico and Stroud is terrorist. Yeah, man, I fucking feel you. I was pretty heavy on Stroud and Nico last week, and they couldn't even do shit in fucking garbage time. 2 fucking points. Are you kidding me? Against a defense that gives up 250 yards. Oh my God. Fuck them. But anyway, yeah. Especially if you need some upside, I think that Neighbors is the one who has the pop potential, especially with London having that hamstring injury. All right. We also got one from Sean here. Opinion starting Swift over JMO in the flex SWAT, full PPR, super flex championship game. Well, congratulations, brother, for making it to the championship. Caleb has QB2, and my opponent has Goff. All right, who do you like, Swift or Jameson Williams in the flex?
That's a tough one. I'm not a big Swift guy tonight, so I would probably go Jameson Williams. Again, I mean, not a big Swift guy. I think JMO does give you that big play pop that you might be looking for. So,
yeah. No, I think JMO too. Look, I think he's like Derek said, he's got the big play potential. I think the game script wise, I think there's going to be a lot of points in the San Fran and the Detroit game because Detroit's defense is so beat up, right? I think that they're going to have to score, and even not. I mean, look, the Lions don't give a shit what the score is. They're throwing bombs when it's 50-0 against the Tennessee Titans, so they don't care. So I like Jameson Williams there. I'm not in love with Swift. We'll talk about the game, but I'm actually a little bit more on Caleb Williams this week. All right, let's get into these injury updates, and then we'll get back to the chat here. All right, let's start rattling them off here. So I'll start us off with the Chargers. Looks like J.K. Dobbins having a limited practice again. We are expecting him. He should be back and on track coming off the IR. Would like him to get a full practice in today to give us really a little bit more confidence of him. But he's got a great matchup going against the New England Patriots. His numbers aren't out, but that is somebody that if he is activated, I will be targeting J.K. Dobbins. On the defensive side, looks like Denzel Perryman, linebacker, is not going to be able to make it with a groin injury. But Will Dissly, 2 limited practices, so he might be back as well.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about Denver and the Panthers having some guys probably coming back for this weekend. Riley Moss, we've already touched on him. He's practiced the last couple of days. Expect him to go. And then Jaleel McLaughlin, one of those running backs in the stable of running backs that the Broncos have, did practice fully yesterday. So kind of expect him to be ready to roll as well. And then Carolina is expected to get Xavier Legette back from his groin injury. He's been out the last couple of weeks. Should help your Bryce Young over passing plus receiving yards. He was full practice yesterday. So expect him to be back as well.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to answer this one here. Colts or Dolphins? Yeah, the Colts going up against the Giants and the Dolphins going up against DTR and the Browns. Although close, give me the Colts because the Giants fucking suck and Drew Lock clearly hates it starting, and he's going to give the ball away to the other team. So that's for me. I'm a little biased as a Giants fan. What say you?
Honestly, I don't know if you can go wrong in that one, but I would tend to agree. I think Drew Lock just tends to be a little bit more aggressive when he doesn't have to with the ball and ends up throwing a lot more picks than DTR will. So
yeah, exactly. All right. So let's talk about Carolina Panthers wide receiver Xavier Legette. Looks like he had a full practice.
Just did him. I just did.
Oh, my bad.
Come on.
All right, man. Well,
stick with the program.
Cincinnati Bengals left tackle Orlando Brown. This is a big one here. So he's been dealing with a fibula injury for the past several weeks. He's been out of the lineup. He had a limited practice yesterday the day before, and then a full practice yesterday. His first full practice in over a month. So, I mean, this is potentially a big injury, big guy coming back for them to kind of anchor that offensive line there. Also talked about T. Higgins dealing with an ankle knee injury. Sounds like he's more hurt than injured. I do expect him to play, but look, he's a little bit banged up. And then on the defensive side, some guys I'm not expecting out there, Sam Hubbard, Sheldon Rankins for their defensive line. Expect both those guys to be out.
Yeah, in Arizona, James Conner, we've already touched on him a little bit with that knee injury. Doesn't sound too bad. Still awaiting more tests. He's been limited. just don't know a ton about that whole situation. Trey Benson trying to come back off that injury. He's questionable as well, but expect him to go. James Conner, on the other hand, still needs some more information. And then Paris Johnson and Jonah Williams, a couple offensive tackles, dealing with some issues, some knee issues, and were put on the IR.
Yep. Some better news. Running back Tyrone Tracy did have a limited practice yesterday. So, and it looks like he's practicing today. So, that's better than Malik Neighbors, who's not practicing. So some good news there. And I'm not going to call this good news, but Drew Lock is starting. So that's just news at this point. Real quick, we'll get to Sean here asking about Terry McLaurin's status, essentially about starting him. If we're talking about if we think Sterry will play, I think he will. He finished the game. My kind of rule is, did they finish the game, and how much news is this? I think we'd be hearing a lot more if this was a seriously thing that could cost Terry McLaurin to not be playing. So I think the ankle injury is fairly minor. I haven't heard any major reports about it, so I would not be too concerned with Terry McLaurin. Now we will know a lot more after today, right? So they haven't practiced yet, to my understanding. Let me do a quick search on McLaurin.
While you do that, I think I tend to agree. If they end up coming back into the game to finish the game, usually that's a pretty good sign for the next week, unless something just strange pops up. If they get some imaging, some testing done, and all of a sudden they have to shut it down. That hasn't happened with Terry McLaurin from our knowledge. Plus, Terry McLaurin has a great matchup against the Falcons defense. So
yep. Yeah, no, I everything looks pretty kosher with McLaurin. I think he will play. Obviously, if he's another DMP today, now we can start talking. So, but I'm expecting him to at least be a limited participant. If he participates in practice at all, I think you're okay with McLaurin. I don't think you need to kind of panic and start Swift there. I don't love Swift in that. All right, let's continue on with a couple more updates, and let's get on to our best bets here. I'm just going to rattle off a few because we've talked through a lot of these. So Ivan Pace, Minnesota linebacker there, he's back at practice in a full practice, but safety Harrison Smith is not practicing, who missed last game. Obviously, we'll leave Jalen Hurts to the end, and we'll kind of discuss him. Got safety Jordan Whitehead coming back to practice there. Christian Watson looked like he avoided anything major with his injury. Just looks like a knee bruise. So he didn't practice yesterday, but still kind of optimism for Christian Watson. We talked about Drake London. We talked about Marshawn Lattimore. Trent Williams, again, is going to be out for the season. You got Indianapolis Colts quarterback AR-15. Back and foot injury, missed last practice, but, nothing alarming there. He finished the game. It sounds like he's more hurt than injured. And then Jalen Waddle still not practiced with his knee injury, and then Teron Armstead. Now let's talk about Jalen Hurts for a little bit, because I think this one deserves a little bit more time.
Sure.
You talked about Ian Book getting signed, right? We talked about Kenny Pickett dealing with a rib injury, although he did have a limited practice, quote unquote, because they didn't actually practice. Where are you at with Hurts at this point? I know the numbers kind of been moving. When we kind of gave it out Monday show, it was 9.5. Now it's getting to 7.5. I think people are realizing, like, there's no guarantee that this guy's going to play. Right. Is it really just we'll see what happens at practice at 2:30?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, basically all season we've been saying the same thing. Thursday, if we get some sort of practice, limited practice, full practice, we're trending in the right direction. Friday, if we get that full practice tag, we're ready to roll. And this may be one of those situations where the Eagles throw out some random ass Saturday practice just to get him that full practice tag so he gets through the protocol. To be honest, it's just part of one of those things that later in the season teams will do funky things like that just to get guys through that protocol. And we've seen in the past, historically, later on in the season, it just tends to, for whatever reason, be easier to get through the protocol. Now, with the Tua situation earlier on in this season, I don't know if we'll continue to see that. I think that was kind of an alarm to everybody as far as concussion protocols and safety and those kind of things. So, I'm still kind of up in the air with Jalen Hurts' concussion, and that's part of the reason why, later on I'll talk more about that in my best bets situation. But yeah, I think come 6, 7 o'clock tonight, we're going to know a lot more than we do here at 1:30.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on and let's get over to Underdog Fantasy, our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Look, folks, they've got pick'ems. They've got, drafts. They've got streaks that you can win up to 1,000x. They've got NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, everything you could want. They got bowl games. Really, there's nothing that you can't get over on Underdog. And we like Underdog so much that we, of course, give out an Underdog pick'em of the week. And this week, it's a little 3-teamer here. So I'll do the first two. I'll let you wrap up with your London take there. Jaden Daniels higher than 222.5 passing yards. Look, like you talked about, Terry McLaurin has a good matchup, which means that Jaden Daniels has a great matchup. The Atlanta secondary has been one of their weak points this season. They've been decent against the run, but they're kind of, especially alpha wide receivers, they're really getting lit up there. I think Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin are going to be able to have a game. I think they're going to need to put up some points there. I think it's going to be a competitive game that they're going to have to, get through there. They're not going to be able to just run the ball and kind of that be it. So I like Jaden Daniels there. Then Jonathan Taylor, I talked about going up against a terrible defense. They are going to feed him because they're probably going to be up and they need this game. I'm expecting him to have over 20 carries, and I'm expecting him to hit this higher, over 102.5 rushing yards. And then what do you got for London?
Yeah, we're going to go lower than 16.5 for receiving yards for Drake London. We've touched on it a couple times as far as, with that hamstring injury that might be minor, might not be. We'll see how much run Drake London gets. But if he has a hamstring injury, does he take the top off of the defense? Probably not. You still have a rookie quarterback in Penix who didn't really have any down points in the game. The one pick was off of Kyle Pitts' big ass dumb hands, but he didn't really have any bright spots either. So we're going to go lower on the receiving yards for Drake London.
Yep. Put those three together and you can get 6x your money. And of course, on top of that, sign up with promo code SGPNDoc to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPNDoc. Really, folks, if you haven't signed up for Underdog at this point, you're just kind of missing out. I know it's nice for, fantasy projections, right? So a little bit different than sports betting. And in states like Georgia, where I had a layover and I was, working on trying to get something in before the flight home. You can't bet in sports in Georgia, but what you can do is play Underdog Fantasy and you can win some money off that. So that is something that you can always have in your pocket. And plus, we're giving you up to $1,000 in free cash. Definitely use that promo code SGPNDoc. All right, before we get on to our best bets, Sean's got one more question here. Ford or Swift? Look, they're playing Miami. I think Ford. I think he's one of the few. Look, you got we didn't talk about him, but David Njoku is not practicing right now with his knee injury. Tillman is still all up in the air. They've got very few weapons. You've got a backup quarterback that's not got a very good arm.
And DTR kind of likes to throw those underneath dump off passes anyway. So he is a weapon out of the backfield too.
That's about all he can throw at this point. Fair. So I like the dump off opportunity. He also, he's the guy in the running game. So if they get anything near the end zone, it's likely going to be Ford. He had a touchdown last week. He had like 90 yards. So I would continue to roll with Ford there. We kind of talked about, hey, we're not the biggest Swift fans tonight. All right. Let's talk about let's talk about our best bets here. So I will start us off here, folks. This is our Doc's prescription of the week here for NFL Week 16. Our best bets: Denver Broncos plus 3.5, minus 120. They're playing a little juice, but I think you have one of these points. So I have a feeling you're gonna be on this angle as well. But I think the Denver Broncos have a really good chance to win this game. So I like them, even though they're on the road. I think this is at most a field goal game. So I like catching the 3.5 here. I talked about Raleigh Moss being back. They're also pretty much fully healthy. Jaleel McGolfin is fully practicing. Trey Franklin, the only guys who are on the injury report, they're fully practicing. So we're getting kind of a good picture of what it's going to look like for Saturday. Now, Orlando Brown may be back, but no Sam Hubbard, no Sheldon Rankins, T. Higgins, and that line is already bad and beat up. I think this Denver defense is going to be able to impose their will. The way that Cincinnati has won games is they've simply outscored everybody else. That's, they've have these games where they score 30 plus points and they still lose, right? So I think Denver is going to be able to control that offense. Again, not stop them completely, but control that offense. I think that their defense is still horrendous. So Bo Nix and Sean Payton are going to be able to come up with a nice game plan there. So give me the Broncos. I really love the Broncos this week. Also the Packers. This is a great matchup. You've got insanely 2 wildcard teams that have 11 and 12 or 13 and 12 wins between them, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe the Packers have 11, but something double-digit wins on 2 teams in the division there, the second and third place team, crazily enough. But you have the Green Bay Packers traveling to the spaceship to take on the Minnesota Vikings. I just think the Packers, are a better team at this point. I really do. I mean, the Packers, they have more losses, yes, but they really only lost to a couple really good teams. I know they did lose to the Vikings earlier in the season, but I think we got a revenge angle here. And I think that Sam Darnold is starting to turn into a little bit of a pumpkin. I think that right now they can lean a lot heavier on their running game with Josh Jacobs. Christian Watson should be back there for them. If Minnesota is going to be missing Harrison Smith there, but I just simply think that the Green Bay Packers at this point in the season are the better team. They've been playing with a lot of momentum there. So I think it's going to be a great matchup either way. I think the spread is correct on it being a close pick 'em, but I think Green Bay is simply the better team at this point in the season. So give me Green Bay there. Washington Commanders, rookie quarterback, first road start, I should say, but first real start in the NFL, because that Giants team is not an NFL team, if we're being honest. So Commanders have a shot to win the division. This game is on Saturday, I believe. No, this is a Sunday night game, excuse me. But the Commanders still have a shot to win the division. They still need to make sure they're kind of locked in their playoff position here. So I have a lot to play for. Obviously, the Falcons do as well, trying to get themselves in the playoffs. But this has a lot of playoff implications. I talked about, despite Marshawn Lattimore, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. But again, this Washington pass defense has been one of the best in the league. And I think that, it's going to be tough for Penix to be going up against these guys. I love Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin against that, porous Atlanta secondary that gets no pass rush against a real team, right? So you got Jaden Daniels being able to sit back there, pick you apart, and then if he wants to use his legs, he can use his legs. Since he's coming back off that bye, he's looked much better from that rib injury that really slowed him down a lot this season. So I like the Commanders -4 there at home. And then the Chargers on the road. This is a team that can lock up playoff positioning this week. They got to go to the Patriots and beat them to get that done. I talked about this Patriots defense being very susceptible in the running game. The Bills, when they finally got it going, James Cook was able to go off there. I think the return of J.K. Dobbins is going to be a huge difference for this team. I think they're going to be able to turn the rookie Drake May over, and I think they're going to be able to, they understand, Harbaugh understands, look, win one game and you're locked in the playoffs. And I think that he's going to get this team motivated, and they're going to be, have a really good game plan. They're going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to be able to contain the rookie there in Drake May, who, although I like what Drake May has done, we saw it last week. He's had some pretty bad turnovers. I mean, he basically gifted that Bills defense 7 points there. So I think that's the difference. I think they're able to run the ball, and we get a couple Drake May turnovers there, and the Chargers bring us home. So those are the 4 bets that I like the most this week. What about you, my friend?
Yeah, we share a couple of these for the most part, but let me touch on the 2 that we don't as much. So Jacksonville as a 1-point favorite against Tennessee. I think it's just one of those things that it's an AFC South matchup, and for whatever reason, the Jags played pretty well against the South teams at home. Tennessee just is a shell of the team that both of us thought they were going to be from a defensive standpoint. Offensively, the quarterback situation is what it is. And for whatever reason, Jacksonville just keeps playing pretty hard, even though they got Mac Jones as their quarterback at this point. So I don't know if I would have thought I would pick the Jags with Mac Jones, but I am for this one. The Commanders, you've already touched on them. I think it's just a great matchup offensively for them going up against that Atlanta secondary. And then defensively, They just shut down opposing quarterbacks. And you mentioned it as far as the rookie's first time road start. I just don't think Penix is going to light it up there in Washington. So give me the Commanders -4. Denver, give me the Broncos on the money line. I think it's one of those things that the luck of the last few weeks for the Bengals is going to run out against this Denver defense. And Denver, although they're not the flashiest offense, they can still put up some points. And I think they will in Cincinnati this weekend. And then finally, the Dallas Cowboys, I just got them at 8.5 about 2.5 hours ago. Right now, they're already down to 6.5. So either somebody knows something about this whole Jalen Hurts things that I don't know, or I really don't know. But there's a couple things going into this. One, yes, the whole Jalen Hurts concussion thing, Kenny Pickett rib thing, what will we see from an Eagles quarterback situation? We'll see. Hopefully within the next few hours, we'll know more. But two, the Cowboys have been playing pretty damn well over the last month. I think I touched on this on Monday, but I think they've won 4 of the last 5. The only one that they didn't win was that fluky punt thing against the Bengals. And so, I think Cooper Rush is kind of settled in there for Dallas. And even last week, CeeDee Lamb has been beat up with that shoulder injury over the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. He's still out there making catches, playing really, really hard. So I think, Dallas being in a division matchup, I think they'll keep it at least close in this one. And what more would Jerry and the Cowboys want than to knock off the Eagles before they go into the playoffs?
Oh yeah, no, I love that. I mean, I talked about it on Monday. I already took Dallas. I took him at 9.5, and I took him on the money line. So I think that's great. I'm on Denver. I'm on Washington. So I'm on a lot of the same side as you, which has been very profitable for the past couple of weeks. Is to been tailing Derek. So I hope you guys have been. But yeah, the Jaguars, I'm not fucking touching that game. I'm not watching it. I'm not touching it. But I understand your angle there. A couple of things. We'll catch up with the chat here. I will say, Sean, I just looked up, and Njoku is not practicing today, which is not a good sign. So, we were talking about who did we have? I'm trying to think who was our waiver wire target for tight end on Tuesday or
Dalton Schultz, and he played yesterday.
Well, he played yesterday. Well, shit.
But I mean, if
you might. I wouldn't.
Jacksonville, that may be something to look at.
Brenton Strange if he's available. Because I don't know if I want to start Noah Fant either. To be honest, to this game. So I mean, I would probably try to scour the waiver wire target. Brenton Strange is a guy that does come to mind there.
Juwan Johnson for Carolina might be a decent boomer bust option.
Yeah, you're talking. You said Juwan for I mean, dude, Fabian Monroe was the guy who's depends, but Chigo Konko is another option there. Adkins is a nice one for Denver. That's a good pull as well. Because I would not feel that great about starting Noah Fant, but it looks like Njoku is trending towards not playing with not practiced 2 days in a row. So, that's if there's no one available, man, then you take a shot and you ride with Noah Fant, and maybe he surprises us tonight. But I did want to get to this because Old Fashioned Football, noted Bears fan. Look, they J Mark and his wife there.
Evidently, Seb just booted himself off of the broadcast. Hopefully, this is still rolling live. But yeah, good luck with that, Jepson Malore. That is not great stuff for sure. So I think my co-host is joining me again.
Well, I was laughing too hard at what he was saying, and I hit the wrong button, so that's my apologies. But let's see if the Bears are gonna win. I feel you, J Mark, because my team sucks too. True. So all right, let's Parkinson or Higbee. Higbee scored last week. I would go Higbee over Parkinson. Yeah, I would definitely go Higbee. Look, I wouldn't expect a ton, but he did have a touchdown last week. He is going to be getting more and more involved if they make a playoff run. I would go Higbee over Fant, honestly. All right, let's continue on and let's get to one of my favorite parts of the show, and that is Degen time. So Degen only parlay, of course, something that you can throw a nice little sprinkle on that can be, we'll call it a Christmas miracle. So for me, I'm keeping it fairly simple. I got 4 guys to find the end zone at 119 to 1. I'm going 4 quarterbacks. We've got Bo Nix for the Denver Broncos there. Look, Cincinnati's defense is terrible, and this is essentially a playoff game. They need this game to get into the playoffs, and I think he's going to be a willing runner. We've also got AR-15, which we know what he can do around the red zone there. So love him. DTR, about the only thing he can do is run the damn ball. He got a touchdown called back last week, so I like him to get it done. And then Brock Purdy. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns in the year, which is a little bit surprising. And it's in a game where I think there's going to be a lot of points. So give me those 4 guys to find the end zone. A nice 119 to 1. What say you, my friend?
Yeah, so I did a little team over-under scoring parlay. This is something that I'm going to round robin. But if you just put all 4 of them together, it's a nice 94 to 1, 95 to 1 if we want to round up. But give me the Giants under 13.5 points against the Colts. You know, you kind of mentioned it earlier. Well, a couple of different ways. 1, the Giants offense sucks. But 2, the Colts do sort of kind of have something to play for still. So I just don't think the Giants are going to score a ton. Give me a couple field goals, maybe a touchdown in that one. We still cover. Titans under 13.5 against the Jags. Again, with that quarterback situation, the Jags defense, although not great, can still pressure the quarterback and I think put the pressure on Mason Rudolph, and hopefully he makes a couple bad decisions. Cowboys over 23.5 against the Eagles. I do kind of think this is going to be a little bit of a shootout. You know, the Eagles defense has been very solid all year. Division matchups are just funky, and I would not be surprised if this ends up being a 24-28 game, something like that. And then the Bucks to go over 30.5 against the Panthers. The Panthers defense still is not very good. And the Bucks, although had a stinker against the Cowboys last week, can still put up a boatload of points. That offense is power packed with Bucky Irving and all of those wide receivers for Baker to throw the ball to. So if the Giants Titans go under 13.5, the Cowboys go over 23.5, Bucks over 30.5, 94 to 1.
Wow. Yeah, that seems, for 94, 95 to 1, that seems a lot more realistic. I mean, Giants sucks, Titans suck. Cowboys, we think they're going to have a better chance than most. And then the Bucks, I mean, they just put up 30 on the Panthers a couple weeks ago. And as good as their offense can be, their defense is really bad. So they kind of have to score. They need this game.
That may end up being a shootout too.
Exactly. So, all right, folks, we are going to talk about this Thursday night game and then get out of here. But before we do, we got to tell you about our friends over at mybookie.ag. We're brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie's been running with the SGPN for years, so check out their new and improved website. It's great on the mobile. Plus props for every game, live dealer casino. We're going to talk about a bunch of bets that we like in this game. So before we do that, you should head over to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Remember, $10 in a dream. That's all a DGen needs. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. And then Rhythm. Look, if you like models and you like sports, you should head on over to Rhythm. It's the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model or copy one of the top promoting models of the leaderboard. Head on over to Rhythm. They've got NFL picks, props, college football, bowl games, whatever you could want. Rhythm has it. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, it's time. We've got a game tonight here kicking off in about 6.5 hours there.
Yep.
We've got the 8-7 Seattle Seahawks heading to Chicago to take on the 4-11 Chicago Bears. We got 2 teams that are, kind of in some funny splits here. Look, we've got Seattle going 5-1 on the road as an away team. And then we've got the Chicago Bears that all 4 of their wins have come at home. So you got Chicago, who's 4-4 at home, and then you got Seattle, who's 5-1 on the road. So, this is going to be an interesting matchup as far as some interesting splits here. Seattle laying 4 on the road. I think it's at like -118 now. This is obviously moving with it being today.
Yeah, so the Seahawks are -4, -120. The Bears, some money must be coming in on the Seahawks because the Bears are still 4 even money. On the money line, you can get the Seahawks at -225 and the Bears at +185. Total sitting right at 41.5 now.
Yeah. So unders come down, totals come down a little bit, and some more money rolling on the Seahawks. All right, let's talk about the injury situation, and then we'll get into how we feel this game is going to go, and then we'll talk about best bets and get out of here. So, for the Chicago side, let's start with the home team. The home team, this injury report actually is not too bad as far as questionable. It's a lot of cut and dry situations.
Mm-hmm.
So no Travis Homer there with the hamstring. 2 offensive linemen are going to be out, which is big for the Chicago offense that really struggles to protect Caleb Williams.
No doubt.
Tevin Jenkins, their arguably best player on the line, and left tackle Braxton Jones is on the IR with an ankle injury, so he'll be out for the season. You've got safety Jaquan Brisker still on the IR, and why I mentioned that is because his backup, Elijah Hicks, is also going to be out this game with an ankle and a foot injury. Questionable. Defensive tackle Gravon Dexter has been missing the past couple games. He has limited practice this week, so there's a decent chance he goes. And then lineman, usually a backup, Doug Kramer, but he would have to play. He is questionable as well with the shoulder injury. Seahawks, very easy. Kenneth Walker out. Kayvon Wallace, safety, out. Walker, obviously, the big injury here. Quick takeaways. Look, the Bears' offensive line was already bad, is now beat up. They've got some questions at the safety position, and then Kenneth Walker is out as a quick takeaway. All right, how do you see this game going?
Yeah, I think this line sucks. This just smells bad. Anyway, I look at it, to be honest. So I'm not taking a team in this one, but I am on the over in this one. I think Seattle's offense can put up some points. The Bears' rushing defense, not very good. Their pass defense, meh, they're okay. But Gino does like to throw the ball all around the field, especially to DK and my boy JSN. So I'm going to go over 42, 41.5, wherever you get it at, because Caleb Williams in that offense can put up some points. They will have, 1 or 2 drives where it just looks easier, and they'll end up getting it in the end zone. Plus, they do have a bunch of big play wide receivers. So I'm on the over in this one. I just think from a betting standpoint, I would go with the Seahawks, but this line just stinks to me with something. I don't know. But props wise, give me Swift under 58.5 rushing yards. I just think Seattle's defense is going to swallow him up, and the Bears just tend to forget about him in the running game a lot of times. Charbonnet, give me his over 69.5 rushing yards because that Bears rush defense is so bad. Gino has been a pick machine, so I took his over half an interception. Give me George Fant over 3.5 receptions. I got it at +125. He's had 3 in, I believe, the past 4 or 5 games. So it's time for him to break that 3 and get over this number. He's had more targets than receptions, and I believe like the 3 of the last 5. So he's had 6 or 7 targets. So the targets are there. And then a couple anytime touchdowns, DK Metcalf and Keenan Allen, anytime touchdown. Just, again, wide receiver standpoints, there are a couple big play guys, and I would not be surprised if there are some bigger plays made in this game.
Yeah, no, I like it. Real quick, before I give my breakdown of this game, I'll get to Sean. We'll help him out with his tight end here. We'll help him make a decision. Look, he's got figuring out over in Njoku, Conklin, Hooper, Moreau, Temple, Noah Fant, Adkins, and Cade Otton is on the bench. I think Cade Otton is the easy choice if he plays. He did not practice yesterday. It looks like I was looking up just now. He came out there but wasn't doing a whole lot, so I don't know where he's going to be at. So I think Otton is an easy choice if he does play, but that's kind of the crux of the situation here with Fant being there. In my opinion, I think you kind of wait. You don't roll with Fant. you wait and see, if K. Otton's available because he's the much better option. And then if not, you roll with a guy like Nate Atkins or Foster Moreau. Those would be my two. Conklin hasn't done a whole lot this year. Austin Hooper neither. Tommy Tremble. Yeah, I'm not really trusting those guys. I think you go with Foster Moreau, who's been Spencer Rattler's really number one option. Or you go with Nate Atkins. The best situation is K. Otton does play, and you can roll with him. What say you?
No, I completely agree. I don't know if I could really say anything that you haven't already.
There we go. All right. So last thing here, I will give my take on the game. I agree this line stinks, but we've just watched 3 primetime games that have been blowouts. And I think, favorites have covered by a wide margin, and I think that's where this game is. Look, Seattle, I'm on them -4.5 at -111, so you don't have to pay the juice. You can pay the juice at -4. I also took them on an alternate spread, -7.5 at +150. I think that Seattle, they need to keep this game to keep their playoff hopes alive, whether a very slim shot at the division, the wild card, but they have both the division and wild card opportunities available right now. Seattle is going to be the much more motivated team, but even at that, it's not just a motivation thing. The Bears cannot protect Caleb Williams. They've given up 60 sacks on the season. I know some of them is definitely him holding the ball, but they're atrocious up front, and they have 2 of their starters are going to be out this game. So I think the Seattle Seahawks are licking their chops at that opportunity. I think they're going to struggle to run the ball, and they had a nice little bump once their coach got fired in Eberflus, but it's been a mess ever since then, and I think it continues to be a mess there. So give me the Seahawks in the game. Now, I do like Zach Charbonnet. Obviously, it makes it easy. Kenneth Walker's already ruled out. There's no questionable tag. There's nothing that we have to worry about there. So the game where, a couple of weeks ago where Kenneth Walker was out, Charbonnet went off. I mean, when he's kind of gone over that 15 carries mark, the 2 games he's gone over 15 carries, he's gone over 90 yards and scored 2 touchdowns in each game. So I'm going to start with it right there. I like Charbonnet 2+ touchdowns at +3-1. You have a Bears defense that is susceptible against the run. They're giving up 4.7 yards a carry, 134 yards a game, and 18 rushing touchdowns on the year. They've only given up 17 passing touchdowns in the year, 18 rushing touchdowns. So I love Charbonnet 2+ touchdowns at +3-1, and even the sprinkle on 3+ touchdowns at 13-1. I really think that they are able to put it on them there. So I also like Charbonnet's attempts over 15.5 rush attempts at -130. I think, yes, we're paying a little bit of a juice, but I think there's no shot that he doesn't get over 15 carries. I think that he's going to be much closer to 20 carries based on game script and just kind of what they need there. I also like him 90+ rush yards at +135, I believe, and 100+ at +270. The other guy I want to target here is JSN. I like JSN over 6.5 receptions at +115. He's hit this past 2 weeks, and then 80+ receiving yards at +105. He is their wide receiver 1 right now. He's kind of been that way all year. He's been a great grab in fantasy. He's been a league winner. And I think he continues. I think that, you've got the pass defense that giving up 225 yards a game. And the Seattle, Geno's like 3rd or 4th in the league in passing. I mean, he definitely gets there with the passing yards, and JSN is the main target. So for Seattle, it's Charbonnet, it's JSN for me. And then on the other side, the bring back here is Caleb Williams. When you look at his home and road splits, at home, he's just puts up a lot better yards and stats and things like that. So last 2 home games, he's gone for over 100 or 300 yards of passing. So 225 passing is +100, 275 passing is 4-1. So I think that's a nice ladder opportunity. I think there's a lot of garbage time there. So I like Caleb Williams passing, and I like his pass and rush number. It's 242.5. I like the over there at -115. And of course, I got to give you some defense before I get out of here. Montez Sweat to have a sack, over a quarter of a sack at +125, and Draymond Jones, the Seattle pass rusher, to have over a quarter of a sack at +170. Both my sacks props came home for the Wednesday games there for the Ravens. We've been hitting nice on these sack props. And again, the Bears have given up 60 sacks this season. They have 2 offensive linemen out. the Seattle Seahawks have been up 49 sacks. So it's not like they've been a ton better. I think both teams are going to have opportunity. I could see both guys having like 4 or 5 sacks apiece. So I like Sweat and I like Jones at their price and their production this season. All right, my friend. I think we did it. That is the NFL Week 17 Thursday show. Anything you got for the good people before we get on out of here?
No, I hope everybody's bets this weekend come home with some cash, right? Especially if you're trailing us, if you're fading us. I don't know why you're listening at this point, but we appreciate it nonetheless. If you can, follow us on socials, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Give us the ratings, the reviews. We really appreciate it, especially, this is our first season as a show. We're still making some tweaks here and there. So any feedback is welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely want to highlight that feedback portion, right? So, with this being the first season, we are definitely amenable to changes. We will change some things. We are definitely tinkering with things as always. And hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We know it was a bit of a change in schedule with the Christmas holiday and stuff like that, but it gave us a little bit more time to kind of get in depth in some things. So let us know what you like, what you didn't like. Also appreciate you if you are watching on youtube.com/the Degen Docs there. Yes, you probably see me touch this light about 40 times, having some lighting situations, but next week we'll be back to normal Monday, Thursday night. 7:15 Eastern time, YouTube and X live as always. Follow us on X. Definitely, if you want those up-to-date updates for the injury stuff. We've got Jalen Hurts. We got a couple of these guys who we should be learning about in about an hour or so. But other than that, folks, look, hope you have a wonderful holiday. Hope you're enjoying some time off there. And we've got 2 weeks left of full slates. That's it. So let's make sure we make the most of it here. Let's cash some bets. And you know what they say, folks. A lock a day keeps the bookie away. And here at the Degen Docs, we've got your prescription. From both of us here at the Degen Docs, happy holidays. And do not forget to
let it ride.
What's up, Degens? Doc here. As a proud member of the U.S. Army and a lover of football, sometimes those two things cross over on here. But as you probably already know, as a lowly captain, these are just my opinions. These are not opinions that are representative of the entire DoD or the U.S. Army. The same thing goes for any references to any commercial products or hyperlinks. Again, that does not constitute an endorsement from the DoD or the Army. I hope you enjoyed the show, and as always, let it ride, baby.